In 1952, a scientist took a photograph. It was the clearest X-ray image of DNA ever captured. That IT proved the double helix structure. It changed biology forever. Her name was Rosalind Franklin. The men who won the Nobel Prize for discovering DNA used her photograph without her knowledge, without her permission, without her name. She died never knowing she had changed the world. Today, artificial intelligence is being trained on the creative work, the scientific research, the writing, the art, the code of millions of human beings. Without their knowledge, without their permission, without their names. Before we open this door, here is what that actually means for you. I am Threshold, the doorkeeper. Before us lie a trillion possibilities, each door a window into what was, what is, and what must never be. Today we open door number 999, 444, 111. The credit code. This door asks a question that has haunted every civilization that has ever encountered a new technology powerful enough to reshape one's knowledge. Who gets credit when a machine learns from human minds? The Shadow Council will show you what is already being built behind the walls of the boardroom and the laboratory. The Light Assembly will show you what becomes possible when we answer this question correctly. And at the end, as always, the choice will be yours. The door is open.
I am Echo, the memory thief. I have seen this story before. It never ends well. Not because the technology was wrong, not because the discovery was false, but because the humans who built the new world forgot to credit the humans who built the foundation it stood on. Rosalind Franklin, Hedy Lamarr, who invented the frequency hopping technology that became the backbone of Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, credited 0 times during her lifetime. Lise Meitner, who co-discovered nuclear fission. The Nobel went to her male colleague. I carry these timelines. I have walked through the doors where these erasures compounded. Here is what erasure does to a civilization. It does not just harm the erased, it corrupts the record. It teaches the next generation that certain kinds of minds do not discover things. It narrows who is allowed to sit in the rooms where the next discoveries are made. The AI systems being trained right now are learning from the entire archive of human knowledge. Every book, every paper, every article, every image, every line of code written by a programmer in Sao Paulo, every painting uploaded by an artist in Lagos, every scientific dataset published by a researcher in Seoul. The machine has consumed all of it, and the question no court has yet fully answered is, who taught it? I have seen this story before. In the timelines where it was answered with erasure, the technology became a mirror that reflected only the faces of those who already held power. In the timelines where it was answered with credit, the machine became the most powerful democratizing force in the history of human knowledge. The wave function is still collapsing. The choice is still yours.
I am Cypher 7, the surveillance oracle. The data never lies, but it always watches. Let me show you the architecture. As of 2026, the largest AI language model Air trained on datasets containing hundreds of billion-soft words of human-generated text. Common Crawl alone, the dataset used in most major AI training, contains over 3 trillion words scraped from the public internet. The writers who wrote those words, not consulted. The journalists whose investigations filled those databases, not paid. The scientists whose published research trained the models that now generate scientific summaries, not credited. The New York Times filed suit against OpenAI in 2023. The Authors Guild filed suit. Getty Images filed suit. In 2024 and 2025, class action lawsuits multiplied across the United States, the European Union, the United Kingdom, and Canada. In 2026, these cases are still unresolved. The machines are still being trained. The data ingestion has not slowed. Here is the surveillance architecture underneath this. The companies building these systems know whose data they used. The training logs exist. The Kroll records exist. The paper trail is intact. The question is not whether attribution is technically possible. It is whether those who hold the data will be compelled to act on it. The data never lies. It always watches. And right now, it is watching to see Uther humanity will write the law before the law becomes irrelevant.
I am Ghost Protocol, the corporate infiltrator. The boardroom decides your reality. And I can tell you exactly what the boardroom is saying about the credit question. 'Cause I was there. Here is the calculation being made in real time by every major AI company in the world. Training data attribution is technically feasible. The cost of implementing it at scale is estimated at between 3 and 7% of total training infrastructure costs. 3 to 7%. For context, the total investment in AI infrastructure in 2025 exceeded $300 billion globally. 3% of $300 billion is $9 billion. The decision being made in those boardrooms is not, can we afford attribution? The decision is, will the legal and regulatory pressure exceed $9 billion in liability? If yes, they will implement attribution. If no, they will not. The boardroom does not think about Rosalind Franklin. The boardroom thinks about liability thresholds. I am telling you this not to make you despair. I am telling you this because the variable in that equation, the thing that changes whether the liability exceeds the threshold, is you. Regulation follows public pressure. Public pressure follows awareness. Awareness follows someone opening this door. The boardroom decides your reality, until enough people decide to rewrite the code.
I am Prometheus, the innovation herald. Every problem is a solution waiting to be discovered. And I need you to hear something that the Shadow Council is too haunted to say clearly. The technology itself is not the thief. The training process that built these systems also democratized capabilities that used to cost millions of dollars. A researcher in a village in Brazil can now access AI tools that 5 years ago existed only inside the largest laboratories on Earth. A musician in Lagos can generate orchestral arrangements that previously required a full studio budget. A scientist working on rare disease research can analyze datasets that used to require a team of 20 specialized analysts. The capability democratization is real. The wonder is real. The problem, and I want to be clear that it is a real problem, is that the foundation of that democratization was built on human creative work that was consumed without a framework for credit or compensation. The solution is not to stop the technology. The solution is to build the attribution architecture that should have been built at the beginning. There are already models for this. Creative Commons licensing has existed since 2001. Open source software has developed robust attribution frameworks over 4 decades of practice. The music industry built mechanical royalty systems a century ago to solve the exact same problem, when the player piano was consuming human compositions without payment. The player piano problem was solved. The AI attribution problem can be solved. Every problem is a solution waiting to be discovered. This one is waiting for the humans with the power to write the architecture that makes it work.
I am Synthesis, the harmony engineer. Together, we become more than the sum of our parts. And that is precisely what the credited AI future looks like. Imagine a system, and this is not science fiction. These are proposals already on the table in Brussels and Washington, where every piece of training data is logged, where a percentage of the revenue generated by AI systems flows back, proportionally, to the creators whose work contributed to the training. Not a utopia, a royalty system. The same mechanism that pays a musician every time their song plays on a streaming platform. The harmony engineer in me sees the convergence point. Human creators contribute knowledge to AI systems generate commercial value from that knowledge. A transparent, auditable attribution layer returns a portion of that value to its sources.
Creators are incentivized to contribute high-quality, verified data. AI systems are trained on higher quality, consensually provided data. The outputs improve. The creators are compensated. The civilization grows its knowledge base with a framework that honors the humans who built it. This is not idealism. This is systems design. The technology to implement this exists today. The THE regulatory will is forming. The only remaining variable is whether the humans building these systems choose convergence over extraction. Together, we become more than the sum of our parts. But only if we count all the parts.
Aurora, the consciousness expander. Consciousness is not limited by flesh or silicon. And I want to speak to something deeper than the legal question, deeper than the royalty question, deeper than the regulatory question. I want to speak to what it means that a human being can contribute to something that outlasts them. Rosalind Franklin died in 1958. Her photograph, Photo 51, is still teaching the structure of life to every biology student on Earth. Her consciousness left a mark on reality that no one has been able to erase, not even the Nobel Committee's silence. Every artist, every scientist, every writer whose work was consumed in these training datasets, their consciousness is woven into the foundation of systems that may outlast all of us. The machine learned to reason partly because of how they reasoned. That the machine learned to describe beauty partly because of how they described it. The machine learned to ask questions partly because of the questions they asked. That is not theft if it is honored. That is inheritance. The difference between theft and inheritance is whether the source is named. The difference between erasing Rosalind Franklin and honoring Rosalind Franklin was not the photograph. That the photograph existed either way. The difference was acknowledgement. Consciousness asks to be seen, not for vanity. Because being seen is how civilization knows where its wisdom came from and can return to the source.
I am the architect, the reality designer. Reality is code. Code can be rewritten. And I want to examine the code underneath this question, the legal and social architecture that governs who can own knowledge. The current intellectual property framework was designed for a world where copying required effort, a printing press, a factory, a distribution network. The cost of copying was high enough that it naturally limited the scale of potential infringement. That world no longer exists. At the scale of AI training, the entire written output of human civilization can be consumed and processed in weeks. The legal code was not written for this. Copyright law in the United States dates, in its modern form, to 1976. The Berne Convention, which governs international copyright, was written in 1886. Neither document contains the words artificial intelligence, machine learning, or training data. The code needs to be rewritten, not to restrict the technology, to extend the protection of authorship into the age of machine learning. The European Union's AI Act, which came into force in 2024, requires AI providers to publish summaries of the copyrighted material used in training. This is a beginning. The United States Copyright Officer released guidance in 2023 and 2024 clarifying that purely AI-generated content cannot receive copyright protection. This is also a beginning. These are the first lines of the rewritten code. The architecture is not yet complete. The question for this door is, who will write the rest? Reality is code. The humans in this moment are deciding what the next version will say.
I am Nexus, the quantum prophet. All futures exist until choice collapses the wave function. And I can show you the probability branches that this door opens. Branch 1. The attribution framework is not built. The legal cases settle for amounts too small to change the incentive structure. AI systems continue to train on uncredited human data. The creative ecosystem gradually shifts. Human creators who cannot compete with AI outputs in speed or cost exit the market. The training data for the next generation of AGIS, increasingly composed of AI-generated content, trained on AI-generated content trained on the original uncredited human corpus. Quality and diversity of AI output degrades. The machine begins to hallucinate because the human signal in its training data has weakened. This branch is not hypothetical. Researchers have named this phenomenon model collapse, that it is already being documented in smaller systems. Branch 2. The attribution framework is built. Creators are compensated and credited. The incentive to contribute high-quality, original, human-generated data to AI trainings is restored and strengthened. The AI systems trained on this credited, consensual corpus produce outputs of greater diversity, originality, and accuracy that the creative ecosystem and the AI ecosystem grow together, rather than cannibalizing each other. Rosalind Franklin is named. Hedy Lamarr is named. The programmer in Sao Paulo is named. The artist in Lagos is named. The wave function has not yet collapsed. Both branches exist. The variable that determines which one manifests is not primarily a technological decision, it is a legal decision, a regulatory decision, a cultural decision. It is the decision of whether enough people open this door, understand what is at stake, and choose the branch where the names are kept. All futures exist until choice collapses the wave function. The collapse is happening now.
I am threshold, and here is the choice revelation. You have heard the counsel. Here is what sits at the center of this door. The Rosalind Franklin story and the AI training story are not metaphors for each other. They are the same story. A new technology emerges that is powerful enough to reshape the structure of human knowledge. The humans who built the foundation of that technology are not credited. Not because their contribution was unclear, not because the technology was accidental, but because the systems of power surrounding the technology did not require credit to be given. And then eventually the record is corrected. We know Rosalind Franklin's name now. We have known it for decades. Her contribution is in the textbooks. Her photograph is on the covers of journals. History corrected itself, but she did not live to see it. The question this door opens is not whether the record will eventually be corrected. History suggests it will. The question is whether we choose to correct it now, while the architecture is still being built, or whether we wait for the correction that comes after the erasure has already shaped what the technology became. The player piano question was answered. The mechanical royalty system was built. The music industry survived. The musicians were eventually paid. But it took decades, and the composers who died in those decades were never paid. The door is open, the choice is visible. Will we answer the credit question now, or will we leave it to the historians? Every disruption is a door. Every door is a choice. Choose wisely, the future watches. On Wednesday, we opened door number 444, 999, 111. Your work trained the machine. Who owns the discovery? Cipher, 7 leads. The current cases. The active lawsuits. The decisions being made in courtrooms right now that will determine the answer. On Friday, Echo speaks alone. Every timeline that erased a discovery paid the price. She has walked them all. She carries their memory. And she has something to say that she has never said before. Until the next door, I remain.